What's going on, everyone? So the Milwaukee Bucks had a very interesting kind of a day yesterday, right? And an absolute shocker. They ended up waiving and stretching Damian Lillard. They ended up signing Miles Turner after losing Brook Lopez. So they basically got an upgraded version of Miles Turner, or of Brook Lopez in Miles Turner. We saw how good Brook Lopez and Giannis were together, but the fact that they ended up waiving Damian Lillard supposedly doesn't sit very well with Giannis Antetokounmpo, that he's not very happy with that, which you can't have it both ways, right? Like, you can't be like, oh, I want them to improve and make the roster better and, do whatever it takes. Otherwise, I might potentially leave. And then they go and do that stuff. And it's like like Dame is great and all, but like, he's not going to play all of next season. So it's like, you have to do something, right? We're trying to keep you around. We're trying to keep you to stay. And so they go and they make this move, right? You can't then be like, oh, like, I can't believe you got rid of Dame. It's like, well, then you should have told them that you're going to stay no matter what, right? Keep Dame and I'm going to stick around, right? But you didn't, right? You wanted them to get better. You wanted them to improve, and they're trying to do that. And whether they've improved enough or not for Giannis to, stay is yet to be seen. But the reports, again, are just like, hey, he's still very likely going to end up being available, right? I talked about how if it's dependent on the Milwaukee Bucks turning this team into a contender, it's probably not happening. Like, I just don't see a path where they're doing that, right? Now, you might be asking, well, why are you, talking about the Milwaukee Bucks so much as a Spurs channel? Because the San Antonio Spurs have been heavily linked to Giannis. And if he's going to become available, then the Spurs are going to make a play for him. Right? Now, how serious would they be? We'll see. Time will tell. But I mean, there have been, from the moment the season was over for the Spurs, there have been talks about they want a star. They want a Giannis. They want a Kevin Durant. They want a Jaylen Brown. Right? They end up missing out on Kevin Durant. It was like, hey, they might go make a push for Jaylen Brown and, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Right? Well, Jaylen Brown, still yet to be seen. Supposedly Boston is kind of, they're not against trading him, but they, take something. Giannis, if you can trade for Giannis, then yeah, you trade for Giannis. But then at that point, you're all in, right? So I do think if Giannis becomes available, that is something to kind of keep an eye on, right? But again, the big question is, would Giannis ever actually request the trade? I don't know if Giannis would ever actually request the trade. But if you start doing things that kind of piss him off, because supposedly that was the report that he was pissed, right? So if that's true, then now you start leaning towards like, oh, right, like one more round move and that could be it. Like, what's the threshold? But again, like, I think Milwaukee made the right move. That was an absolute shocker and surprise. That was incredibly creative, right, that they were able to work that out. The problem is that they set themselves back so much, right? Which is why this is foolish and why they should have just traded, like, from the jump, traded Giannis. Because now they're locked into paying Damian Lillard $22 million for the next 5 years. I will be shocked if Giannis is on the Milwaukee Bucks for 5 more years. At some point, I think he's getting traded and asking out. It's just like, you're making these moves. Now you're doing these things to go sign Miles Turner. And Damian Lillard, there was talks about Damian Lillard not even opting into his player option next year because he wanted to get out of Milwaukee so bad. Like, you might have been done with this, moved on, had a bunch of assets. I understand he can't bottom out and all that stuff. But, like, again, you could go to a team like the Spurs and be like, hey, I want, Castle and Vassell and all these other things that, maybe a De'Aaron Fox, and start putting together the pieces in order to make it make sense. And then Spurs still have, Dylan Harper and, Victor Wembanyama and, now Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? So they have kind of like their 2 guys for the future, and then they have that guy, and now you're going all in and trading whatever else to get that. Right? It would have been kind of this win-win for everybody. Right? But instead, they want to try to say, which I don't really blame them for wanting to keep, Wemby around, right? Like, or Wemby around, Giannis around. Sorry, he got Wemby on the brain. Because I was going to say, I would, you'd want the Spurs to do the same thing for Wemby. But I think it's like to their detriment at this point. I think it's more harmful than it is good for the Spurs at this point. I just think that they're in they're in such a bad spot. No, sorry, not Spurs. I said Spurs. Correction. Milwaukee. I just think the Milwaukee Bucks are in such a bad spot that it might end up it might be in their best interest to put him on the market. And I think the Spurs might be one of the best destinations for him. Obviously, Houston, I think, is going to be a big player and going to be a big play in that, right? But I do think the Spurs are going to be big in that as well. I mean, again, there was, like, when there was the whole KD thing, there was several reports that came out. I talked about it on the channel that, they might be holding their assets for Giannis because people still believe Giannis is going to be available. So why go and sell whatever you have to sell to go get Kevin Durant when you can use all that same stuff plus whatever else to go get Giannis, right? Now, we got to keep in mind, and this is something that I think is very important, is if you go and trade for Giannis, you are all in. That's it. You are all in. You don't go trade for Giannis to go then sit on your thumbs for, 3 years. No, you're all in, right? So, and Giannis is probably going to want that commitment. If he goes to a team like the Spurs, you don't think he's going to want to know, like, hey, are you guys going to do whatever it takes in order for me to win a championship? Yes or no? Right? Like, because if not, then I'll go to a team like Houston that has Kevin Durant and will do whatever it takes, right? So if the Spurs really want a guy like Giannis, which supposedly they do, it kind of feels like it's starting to trend in the direction of, like, Giannis might be available sooner rather than later. And if that continues to trend that way, then that could open the potential for the Spurs to get in that conversation. But again, Spurs are really going to have to weigh, like, is this best for us? Is this really what we want to do? Do we really want to go get Giannis? And now we're trading whatever we have to trade. If you have to trade Dylan Harper, you're trading Dylan Harper. If you have to trade, Stephon Cash, trading Stephon. Because again, it makes no sense to go trade for Giannis to then let's wait 3 years for Dylan Harper to develop. Right? At that point, Giannis is probably already done. He's probably already cooked. Right? So Spurs have to be willing to make that decision, right? Because Giannis isn't going to want to come. I mean, look, fans, us, like, we might not want to do that. And there's probably a lot of you that are like, absolutely not. You're not trading Castle or, Harper or anybody of significance for our future for Giannis, right? And look, I get it. But like I always say, it doesn't matter what we want. Right? The general consensus of landing Giannis could be absolutely not, no way, don't do it. It doesn't matter. If the Spurs think, man, we get Giannis, Victor Wembanyama, have De'Aaron Fox, right? Go get some 3-and-D shooters with whatever we have left. Now we're in business, which they would be, right? I mean, again, Giannis is also one of those guys that is worth it. Like, there's very few guys that you could sell your potential future for, and it makes sense. Giannis is one of those guys, especially alongside Wemby and De'Aaron Fox. I mean, Wemby is the best player Giannis has ever played with, right? Or would play with, right? And I mean, De'Aaron Fox, you can even make an argument for, right? Based on the stage where De'Aaron Fox is compared to Damian Lillard in their careers and how bad of a fit Damian Lillard was, right? So, I look at Milwaukee, and it's kind of, I continue to believe that it's trending. Maybe Giannis kind of gives them to, like, the trade deadline or so. I think it's going to, if it's not this year, it's probably next. Like, it's just, it feels like one of those things that it's a matter of when, not if, right? Like, it's not if they trade Giannis, it's like, when do they trade Giannis? At what point does one or the other side just go, all right, we need to be done? I don't know if, like, both sides, it's so frustrating because it's just like, it's clear as day, both sides need to be done and need to move on, right? It's like that couple where it's just like, man, like, now, like, I understand that they want to stay together, that they love each other, but it's time to go, right? Both of you'd be so much happier, such a better position. You guys are literally weighing each other down at this point. It's what it is. And, I just think a team like the Spurs, again, Giannis has proven that he can lead and win a championship and be the best player on the championship team. There are very few guys that can actually do that. Right? There's a lot of stars in the league, a lot of great guys. Right? Wemby is an incredible talent, but he has yet to prove, and I know he's going in his third year. It's not a slight on him, but he's yet to prove that he's one of those guys. De'Aaron Fox isn't one of those guys. Stephon Castle isn't one of those guys. Dylan Harper isn't one of those guys. And they might never be. Again, there's very few guys that actually are. Right? Like, Jokic wasn't that guy until 2 years ago. Again, like, there's a lot of excellent players in this league that aren't able to lead their team to a championship. You got to think, it's like, what? Like, Giannis, Jokic, LeBron, Steph, KD. Right? Like, it's basically it. Kawhi is still in the league, so yeah, I put him up there. But at this stage, I don't think he's one of those guys. But like, there's literally only a handful of guys in this league that actually can win you a champ. Right? Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, right? They won a championship. Jaylen Brown, I know, won an NBA champ. I don't think it was necessarily like they were the best player that led a team. I just think that they were the best players on the best team, right? Like, that's the difference. But you kind of just go down the list, right? Like SGA, just prove, right? Before that, he hadn't proved it. Well, he just did. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? First off, do you think Giannis becomes available? If so, do you want him on the Spurs? Either way, love to hear it. Let me know. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos. Truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.